Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we're 2 weeks away from Donald Trump taking the oath of office, and it's been no secret that Donald Trump wants to buy Greenland, which is a territory from Denmark. It's a very large island. It's east of Canada. It's debated if it's a part of Europe or a part of North America. I think geographically it's part of North America, but still, when it comes down to it, it's owned by a European nation, Denmark, and Denmark has been very straightforward, saying it's not for sale, although Donald Trump is somebody who understands the art of the deal. And Greenland has been something that he talked about briefly during his first term, and then COVID hit. It was really never talked about again. And while he was running for president, he didn't really mention it very much, but ever since he won, it seems as if he is playing for keeps with his legacy, and he wants to benefit the country in the process, and he is going out there and he's making a play, and he's talked about Canada, he's talked about the Panama Canal, there's also rumors about other places like Iceland, and we're not going to cover, every single territory he possibly could take, at least not in this video. We could go more in depth into some of these other places like Canada or the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal seems a lot more feasible, but when it comes down to Greenland, their leader came out and said that they want to be independent. They're pushing for more independence from Denmark, and Denmark is losing its leverage. They're losing the people of Greenland because of how Denmark has essentially, treated some of the locals on the island, and a lot of them now are pulling for this independence movement. And you're seeing this here, you're seeing it unfold at a time when Donald Trump has come out and said he wants Greenland. He wants to go out there and buy Greenland. So Denmark is definitely losing a lot of leverage. Maybe now at this stage in the game, they're going to be more likely to go out there and possibly make a deal. Now, I will say this. This also comes at a time where you have Donald Trump Jr., who is planning a visit to Greenland this next week, which coincides with his father's interest in acquiring the island. There's no exact planned meetings with Greenland officials, but he wants to go enjoy the island, meet with a lot of the locals, and that kind of is something that would be an interesting step in that direction because it shows interest. They're going to the island. There's not very many people they'd have to win over in order to have the people on the island support joining the United States, because there's already problems with Denmark, and many of these people want to join the United States. It's possible that that is going to make things a lot easier in terms of getting Denmark to come to the table to make a deal. We understand that there's not a lot of people in Greenland to begin with, but there are a lot of resources. A lot of people are saying, is it going to be a red state or a blue state? It's not going to be a state because nobody lives there. Probably, to be honest, on the surface level, they would vote blue because you do have a lot of, parties in their local government. They're very far left. Although if Donald Trump is able to go out there and, purchase the island, give everyone on the island X amount of money, maybe then they would, hypothetically vote Republican, or their non-voting member to Congress would be a Republican, because they would associate Trump in a very positive light with the purchase if the purchase was to be popular. But I will say there's not that many people that live there. You have approximately 56,000 individuals that live there. If you break that down by countries, it'd be the 210th largest. It's very small. Plenty of our territories like Guam, I believe the Northern Mariana Islands, some of those other territories that we have in the Pacific actually have more people than Greenland has. So it doesn't really seem as if Greenland would actually be some sort of like territory, oh, we need this to be a state. But what we would like is their natural resources, because there's plenty of oil there, there's plenty of minerals there for mining, and it could give us trillions upon trillions of dollars. Also, for military purposes, it is strategically located in between, the U.S., Canada, and Europe. And in terms of strategic positioning, when you have other countries like Russia that are kind of like bordering the Arctic area, it does seem as if for just leverage purposes, you'd probably want it for military purposes, put military bases on Greenland, you name it. We have a lot of military bases in places that aren't really strategic. We could possibly close down, save money, and maybe end up putting one on Greenland or so, just so we can have more leverage when it comes down to our positioning in the world. So Greenland as a whole, could this happen? It's very possible. Donald Trump has made it clear he's not playing around with Greenland, although what's not entirely clear is the whole Canada situation, because Donald Trump has said that he wants Canada to be the 51st state. He even jokingly referred to Justin Trudeau as the governor of Canada. Justin Trudeau officially now has resigned from his post, partially because his party is getting absolutely decked in the polling for the Canadian election, which will be taking place later this year. The Liberal Party is nosediving in the polls. They're very unpopular. Donald Trump is trying to take advantage of this. He basically humiliated Justin Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago, so much so to the point where even liberal Canadian media was mocking Justin Trudeau over the whole thing. And now we see Donald Trump come out once again today for probably like the 15th time or so and jokingly calling Canada the 51st state. Now, will Canada actually join the United States? I don't really know if it would be all that likely. Probably not. But again, you never know. Crazier things have happened. But what Trump does say is the U.S. can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies. Canada needs to stay afloat. Trudeau knows this and resigned, and that is true. Canada does take advantage of us on trade. Trump says if Canada merged with the U.S., there would be no tariffs, taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them together. What a great nation it would be. And there are positives to this, hypothetically, if it were to happen. I will say, you have Canada. It is a very large country. You'd be able to have more business flow, more trade, etc., less regulation. And Trump says no tariffs overall, which technically would help out the economy significantly. It would create an economic powerhouse. You'd have all of Canada's natural resources and strategic positioning. We would grow in area or size significantly if you're talking about competing with some other nations that have a lot of land, a lot of resources, you name it. That is very much true, although I will say that you do have a cultural difference for sure that does exist. Canada is much more liberal. So all this talk about Canada being the 51st state, even if Alberta or Saskatchewan, some of the more conservative provinces, join the U.S., there's really no guarantee that they would be voting, solidly Republican. It is true that they're more conservative than the Canadian Liberals, but compared to, the Republicans, I think there were some polls back in 2016 that showed Donald Trump actually losing Alberta by a lot, even though he was losing it by less. I think this time around there was a poll that showed him, close to tied or so. So it's possible that, if Alberta did join the U.S. somehow or whatever, that you would see it vote like Republican, but, it's not a sure thing. But then you have Ontario, you have British Columbia. They would not be voting for, a Donald Trump Republican. If we're talking about like John Kasich or something, Mitt Romney, like it's a different brand of conservatism up there, kind of how the UK Tories are much more liberal. Although it is true that it's a generational thing. The Overton window is changing, and Canadian media has just been painting Trump with a very negative light, even more unhinged, arguably, than our own media has painted Donald Trump with. So we never would know how things would play out in the long run. But if we were to get Canada as like territories where they would have more autonomy, they wouldn't necessarily vote, but they would be a part of the U.S. and we could easily do business with them. Yeah, and for sure put military bases where necessary up there strategically, Donald Trump is right. If that was the end goal and that was feasible and that was popular in Canada, well, that would be huge. And I think that it would be something that would just bolster the U.S. and bolster the U.S.'s economy. But is that feasible? Is that going to happen? Well, probably not. I don't know how serious Donald Trump is. I think he's using this, though, as leverage, because it is true. The U.S. is much more powerful than Canada. We have a much stronger military power. We have 10 times the amount of people here than they have there. So when you look at it from that perspective, yeah, it's very clear that although Canada, they may not want to join the U.S., Donald Trump could use this as leverage to get what he wants out of Canada through trade and to strengthen the American economy as a result. Now, there's also talk about, the Panama Canal Trump has mentioned. We used to have that until the 1970s. I don't know how he would go about getting that back, but when you talk about negotiation, when you talk about art of the deal, that is Donald Trump's wheelhouse right there. And if he's going to go out there and he's making a play for these territories, you talk about manifest destiny, cementing his own legacy. A lot of presidents in the past that have been very successful and very memorable presidents have done so. Could he be the next? Well, I think it would help us out tremendously, especially if we got Greenland and control the Panama Canal Zone back. Canada, maybe use it as a bargaining tool, but I will believe it when I see it. But if it happened and they became territories that wouldn't have voting power in our presidential elections, yeah, that would be pretty cool. And Trump's legacy would go down as probably the best president of all time, undisputed. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.